We live in a Western world with Western values. Even though Judaism is not a Western religion, but, and I do say unfortunately, we allow this to take over the essence of Judaism, the heart of Judaism. And one of the things that I'm referring to is the essence of beauty and perfection. The Greeks and so on and so forth had basically started with that. We're trying to make everything perfect, and so on and so forth, until to the point that and that's the Greek thing. We said Yefet. It was everything is Yafeh by him, right? I do believe that somewhere along the line, it has to do with trying to not imitate God, but rather compete with him. And as a result of that, we adapted to this Western approach, Western philosophy, that we need everything perfect. The art that we make has to be perfect. It has to look like people. It has to, and so on and so forth. Vases that we made, they have to be perfect. Everything has to be symmetrical. By the way, in nature, not everything is symmetrical. And I don't know, regardless of what beauty man creates, it doesn't even come close to a snapshot of nature. I mean, you go out to nature, you see the mountains with their asymmetrical values and so on and so forth, and it's much greater. As a result of this kind of approach, what happens is we also adapt to the way we look at people. We seek perfection in people. We look at the external. We want everything to be harmonized. Everything has to flow. The colors have to flow, and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, we carry it to the way we interact with people. We don't look at the person inside, we look at the person outside. It became very external and materialistic. A person would marry a person. Why? Because he or she look good. It's all about the looks. If the person does not look good, they will not even consider the person. Of course, looks could be pushed to the side if they have money. If they have money, it's okay. That's another. So it's all external materialistic. Many people will marry people just because of passion and desire. There's never a look inside to really see who the person is. People are not interested in that. And I see it many times when people refer to shidduchim and they ask me the questions. The question that supposedly are asking about internal is extremely superficial, and they really don't want to hear a word you say. They don't want to hear what you have to say. And you could see also with guys, I said, well, it's attraction. If you introduce the attraction into the equation of getting married, you're going to fail. I'm sorry, you're going to fail. I don't care what anybody says, you're going to fail. And more than that, because of the seeking perfection and seeking the perfect and so on and so forth, we reject anybody who has a slight imperfection. I think it's maybe the most non-Jewish thing to do. The Torah itself, most of the times, if not all the times, when it deals with characters of the Torah, not only is not trying to hide the imperfection, magnifies those imperfections. So many people would say it's self-inflicting pain or punishment. The Jews always masochist. They always try to, to hurt themselves or not to look good or whatever it is. But that's not the case. It's a mindset. If you go to somebody's house, the house has to be perfect. The silver cups have to be perfect and they're all presentable. People think that the houses are mini museums. And that everybody has to have curtains. Why in the world would anybody have curtains? I mean, what do you live in? Victorian era? What do you need curtains for? Okay, I need shades for privacy, but what do you need curtains? They collect dust, it looks stupid, and I don't know. I don't like curtains. I think curtains are stupid. Waste of money, waste of material. Unless you stuck somewhere, you came from Russia and you stuck in Tsarist Russia and you tried to overcome this, you don't need curtains. People spend a lot of time there. They want the house to look. So they put the piano over there by the fireplace. Of course, nobody plays. They put pictures all around it, Pictures of the family, the perfect family. Families would not, and I'm telling you this, would not, and there's very unique people who do that, but would be very embarrassed if there is a kid with an imperfection in the family. They would always showcase the perfect kid, the good kid, who does things, who goes, who scores the A's, who is the good kid. But the other kid who is not, he's always been pushed to the side. If they take a family picture, they always put him like this behind. That's stay there. It's okay. Go buy an ice cream. Photographer, please take a picture. Kind of a thing. And that's a very not Jewish thing to do. And why is it not Jewish thing? Because it is a foreign concept. Chazal tells us, right? Actually, Chazal, Chazal. Who says that? Eshet Chayil Mimtza. Who sings that? Shlomo HaMelech. I guess he's a part of Chazal. Chazaliko. He's a part of Chazal. Eshet Chayil Mimtza. Sheker Achen vehevel hayofi. Sheker Achen. The lie that rises from external beauty. Vehevel. Hevel means insignificance. Hevel hayofi. Beauty is nothing. What is the most important thing? Isha Yirat Hashem, the internal. How much Yirat Shamayim does she have? What her insides say about her? I'm talking about her guts. I'm talking about her neshama. Isha Yirat Shamayim. That's Yirat Shamayim is what is important. A woman who gives from herself and does and so on and so forth. Not a flashy woman who looks nice or drives the Mercedes and she got the three-carat diamond on her finger and she talks on the phone. We're not talking about those wives that go like this, hello. She has a maid and she has this and she has that. And she wakes up in the morning at 10 o'clock in the morning like, and perfect. We're not talking about women like this. Beauty passes faster than you flush water down the toilet. Yeah, I can tell you that. If you marry for that, then I end up paying for it. So years ago, I came a wonderful, wonderful concept, and I said, well, that's something that I could relate to. And it's called Wabi Sabi. Not wasabi. Wasabi is that the horseradish, the Japanese horseradish is green that you grind and you put on sushi. Not wasabi. Wabi Sabi. Two different words. Wabi and Sabi. It's a very different concept to explain to the Western. And why the Western? Not necessarily, if you're a Western, you could understand that. But the Western person is interested in the external, not in the internal. Is a person that doesn't want to contemplate and to think. It's a person who is motivated by urges. Wabi Sabi is the opposite of Feng Shui. Wabi Sabi is the art or the appreciation of the imperfect. As a result of that, in Japan, for a long time, the prize was the Chinese fine utensils with the perfect white china and perfect symmetry and everything and so on and so forth, until some peasant utensils start to arrive from Korea, and there's a development of an idea that became Wabi Sabi, influenced Japan so much that it is mainly today associated with what we call the tea ceremony and whatever is involved with that. However, it is greater than that. Wabi Sabi is like the heart of Japan in terms of understanding. Wabi Sabi would be everything opposite of what we have today. If you see a slick iPhone or like a perfect, one of those devices like this, that's not Wabi Sabi. Wabi Sabi will be an old rusty pickup from the 60s that the paint is peeling, and you find tremendous depth in that paint. When you look at a brand new car like this, there's no depth, it's only on the surface. But if you look at the rust of a car, you find many shades there. And so you can find a whole entire universe. Just look at it. It looks sometimes, and that's how you make it the Japanese pottery. They look like the galaxies. And they deliberately make it imperfect. They don't make it symmetrical. They put a dent in there to make it like that. To teach you to let go and to associate with the imperfect, to realize that the true beauty does not come from perfection. The real beauty comes from the imperfection. The perfection is left for God. God is perfect. We could not ever be perfect. The Torah emphasizes the imperfection to teach us to appreciate, because that's what gives it the depth. So if you so-called have a kid who is not your goody kid, who sits there and plays the piano, and he has his hair combed like this, and he's a little chubby, and he's a good, they say yes ma'am and no ma'am, and you have the other kid who runs around and goes like this, that's the kid you should showcase, because he's the imperfect, he's the guy who brings the depth into your life. That's the kid that would challenge you to find powers and depth inside of you, to have compassion. When you, God forbid, have a retarded kid or a kid with disability, all of a sudden, you're not being repulsed by this kid. You feel tremendous connection to this kid. You find depth in you of affection that you would not have found anywhere else. If you work with disabled people, you realize all of a sudden the beauty of these people. If you work with Down syndrome people, you find the unbelievable beauty in the warmth of these people. They will hug you, and they will kiss you, and they will smile, and they will say hi, and they will say this. With regular people don't, and you fall in love with these people. You fall in love with their imperfection. That's a Jewish way to look at things. And we're wrong, and we build palaces, and they have to look perfect, and they're empty, and there's no feeling in them. But you go to a shtibel. A shtibel is Wabi Sabi. Well, the books are like this, the books are ripped. Why? Because somebody used them. They don't look like perfect, like Congress Library. Like you go to a law office, or some pots who has all these like leather-bound books and nobody ever opened. They look perfect. That's not Wabi Sabi. That's cold. That's not it. Has no spirit in it. The spirit comes from the usage of the ripped books, the falling. What is it? How do you call this? The wallpaper and the floors that creak, and the floors that thousands of people walked and prayed there, and the chairs that are this. That's Wabi Sabi. You come there on Shabbat and you see the people davening. You feel like you're in the gates of heaven. You don't feel removed. A church is absolutely not Wabi Sabi. A church should be perfect, and you should sit there and you're quiet and you feel like a miniature doll in this huge thing. It's deliberately made like this, and it's perfect, and it's this. It's very cold. It's very external. It's not deep, and therefore your tefillah is that as well. And because your tefillah is shallow, you need a lot of noise to overcome that shallowness of your prayer. So you make a lot of production around it. Then you have a choir, and then you have a piano there, whatever they have there. What they have there? A harp or what? Huh?
Organ.
Organ. That's organ day. Organ donations they have there, right? All kind of stuff they have there. Why? Because there's no depth in the prayer. But when you go to the forest and you sit down, your prayer is different because you want to pray. All of a sudden it comes from you here, and this unidentified thing that is emerging from yourself and is turning you around, and you want to pray, and you want to talk, and you want to pray to God, and you want to communicate with Him, because nature outside is Wabi Sabi, because you have branches that are falling and trees that are rotten. And you're not going to find Wabi Sabi in the gardens of Versailles. You're going to find it in nature, going somewhere in the mountains, and you see rocks are falling and a little moss growing here, and so on and so forth. And that's where you find spirituality. In the imperfection. That's where you find beauty, in the imperfection. And we all try to hide our imperfections. One guy doesn't speak so much. He stutters. But there's tremendous beauty in this person. One guy is fat. He's trying to hide it. He's imperfect. There's beauty in that as well. I don't understand why men like skinny women. The more the merrier. Do you understand what I'm saying? We want everything perfect. When we ourselves, we try to compensate on our imperfection by trying to have everything perfect around us. And as a result, we feel completely more removed than everything around us. We don't feel connected. And now you wonder why things don't ignite. There's no spark, Habibi. There's no spark. That's the beauty of old cars, by the way. I love old cars. There's a smell to an old car that comes from the engine that smells like home, you know? You could have a perfect home. You could be at home and miss home. You are at your home, but you want to go home. In other words, you are a stranger in your home because it's all perfect. It's all, you can do this and you can't do that. So you're what if the house is messy? The house is messy because people live there. You want to have a clean house? Go live in a museum. It's cold, it's empty. That's the beauty of it. It does not have to be perfect. It should not be perfect. You want it to be perfect? You want it to be like neat, all the china dolls and the glass and everything is dusted and so on and so forth. That shows that people have a lot of time and they absolutely do nothing in their life besides cleaning their house. By the house, the people are working on themselves and they're interacting. So they're going to be this on the floor and that on the floor and this and this and that. You cannot experience, for example, there will be the difference, let's say, between going to a fine dining restaurant, between the Four Seasons restaurant. I don't know, you have to wait like 6 months in line to go there. I don't know, it's like whatever they serve you there. But whatever, going like this, you go with a tie, I'm choking you like that, with a black, you have to go with a black suit and the whole entire shebang, and they give you, I don't know, like a steak this big, you know what I'm saying, a little tomato, a little steak, a little design, $250 later, right? You can't compare this kind of experience. This is when you go, when you need to feel that you had accomplished something. Oh, I'm going to the Four Seasons. I'm just using that as an example because I don't know any other restaurant. I'm going to the Four Seasons restaurant, I need to feel, that's where presidents go. I sleep in the world of Astoria because who knows who slept on this bed. Maybe Monica Lewinsky slept on this bed. You know what I'm saying? It's your lack of confidence and need to feel that you have achieved something that drive you to do all this craziness. You can't compare going to the Four Seasons to, let's say, comparing going to a tapas bar somewhere downtown Madrid or downtown Barcelona when there is noise there and there are the wraps on the floor and this and all of a sudden you feel alive. You're coming in contact with people, and the beauty comes from the mess there when there's sawdust on the floor. Why? Because the drinks that spill there. The people are drinking, the people are eating, and they throw the napkins, they throw on the floor, and it needs to look messy. That's Wabi Sabi. Judaism is like that. Everything that has to do with God has to be beautiful and perfect. But that's for Him. In our lives, we know we will never be perfect. And celebrate that. Celebrate your imperfection. I don't say fall asleep on it. I say celebrate it. Don't be perfect. No one is perfect. You would never be perfect. Why is that? Because that's the rule. The only perfect entity in the world is God. But He is the Yotzei min haklal. He is the exception. And the exception doesn't come to teach about the rest. It comes to teach on itself only. Not on the rest. And the rest is imperfect. And that's the beauty of it. God created our world imperfect. I mean, when a branch dies and falls on the floor, there is not sanitation department that gives a ticket to God. It stays there and creates tremendous beauty. If you go to a forest during the fall time, it's beautiful. That's Wabi Sabi. That's imperfect. Because leaves all over the balagan, leaves all over the place. It's beautiful. You ever see naked trees in the winter? It's tremendous drama going on there. Those naked trees, those barren trees in the middle of the winter is Wabi Sabi. To see moss growing on one side of the tree with the different colors. You ever see moss that's growing on trees? It's ridiculous. How beautiful. Look at the depths inside of it. Take a close-up, take a macro picture on your camera with something like it. It is amazing to see it. Perfection is from God. The golden ratio, the divine ratio, it's for Him, not for us. We try to imitate because we try to show that we are gods as well. Well, that's what I'm saying it's not. I think that maybe it's a problem. So you should not make, your house like a museum. You should not, when we're talking about Hidur Mitzvah, I think the Hidur Mitzvah should be something more internal than external. I think Judaism had taken a turn to the worst in that fashion and along the line lost its identity. And that's why I think Chassidut came about. The early Hasidim, the Baal Shem Tov and company, when they came, they wanted to rejuvenate this internal movement. However, Hasidim today, I think they are more materialistic than anybody else. Go to Hasidic shots, everybody has a menorah this big, kosher kiddush like Eliyahu Navi, the Holy Grail over there. But you can find it within yourself. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, look at some real Japanese pottery or tea ceremony pottery to understand and to learn and to teach yourself to appreciate the imperfection so you can be a better Jew. Why? Because ultimately is ve'afta l'reacha kamocha. This is the whole entire Torah. And you should love your fellow Jew like you love yourself. And if you don't like your imperfections, if you don't love yourself, you could never love anybody else. And Mimele, you cannot keep the Torah. Shabbat Shalom.